Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activities. We are delighted to be waiting for Peggy Spear to show us deer today from the collection of the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy, are they reindeer? It's all yours.
They're not reindeer. Well, maybe they're a couple. We'll see. Let me. All right, here we go. And let me make sure I can see all y'all faces. Okay, here we are.
Ooh.
This photograph, like, I don't know, something about it just stopped me in my tracks. It is so eerie. I loved it. What do you all feel when you heard? I heard some reactions. So what are we all feeling when we looked at this?
The Ghosts of Reindeer.
It feels very ghosty.
Ghost of Deer, I guess.
Yes.
It's a negative. It's negative, right?
No, this is an actual photograph.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like they're all albinos.
They do.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It also looks a bit delicate, like their spindly legs,
Yeah.
because their
Yes.
bodies are moving so much, but their legs can't move that fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seem a little stiller than the rest of the body.
Mm-hmm. That took
Yes.
my breath away.
It is such a stunning photograph, and I've not seen it in real life, but just that seeing it in our collection, or in our database, it was, I think this is what inspired me to do deer, because it's such an unusual photograph. It is called Running Deer, and the photographer took it in Ireland. He traveled to Ireland in '66. He's an American. Traveled in 1966 on a Guggenheim fellowship, so on an art fellowship, and took pictures throughout the country. He was really interested in the spiritual ambiance and kind of the unattainable in nature. And so he was at a large private estate, and they had a huge park within this land. And he set up his large format camera, so it was on a tripod, and he kind of hid it behind trees, so that he was kind of blending it, almost like a blind, like if you were hunting. And he was waiting. He knew that he had seen these deer on the grounds prior, so he knew kind of where they would be. And he did it right, at dusk, when the light is starting to, deer are more active. And they came so quickly and so fast, he almost didn't have enough time to hit the shutter. And so this is what the result was. And he ended up cropping it. So there was more of the tree. You were able to see more of the top half of it, but he cropped it down and made it this panoramic image. And
Okay.
So he did manipulate the photograph, but just the cropping and the format, not much of the coloring. I don't think he manipulated the tonality of it. But this photograph is one of his most popular photographs, because it's just so haunting.
He must have done it at a very slow shutter speed, otherwise he would have gotten blurred. If it was fast shutter speed, it would have been very lifelike. Low shutter speed, basically the images blur together.
Right, it's a longer exposure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he did not have much time. So this was, I think, the one shot he was able to take.
Wow.
As they came through.
Oh my goodness.
Because they look so fuzzy, the deer, compared to the trees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the large format camera that I've been using is able to get some of I mean, you can almost see individual leaves on it. It's so crisp. which is the beauty of these larger format cameras, is the detail you're able to capture. But you're right in that it's such a stark difference from, you almost can't tell any detail about the animals below. And they're not albino, it's just the lighting of the day.
Yeah.
But they truly, I think that's what makes it look so ghosty, is that their color just isn't what you're used to seeing when you see deer.
Yeah, well, low shutter speed, you get a lot of detail for still action, which is what trees are.
Right, but also it's the type of camera that he's using.
Right, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so the combination of the two, and he did not know that this would be this effect of the deer is what he was going for until he got in the dark room. So he was not expecting the image to look like this until he was developing.
Oh my goodness.
Some people would have said, oh, that's a horrible picture. Throw it away.
And I think it's magical.
It
It
is
sounds like
nice.
y'all do too.
It is. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Believe that it is a thermal picture.
Mhm.
Say that
It's a-
again?
A thermal picture.
Oh, you're right. It kind of looks like a thermal picture. You're right.
Mhm.
I don't even know what that is. Can you explain? The thermal
Yeah.
picture?
Hans, you want to do it?
Do you want to explain it, Hans?
Gelatin silver print.
Hans, are you thinking with a thermal picture where the body heat is almost detected?
Oh, that's right. It almost looks like it, yes.
That's
Yeah.
what I believe to be.
It looks very similar to it. And I think that's part of the ghost feeling to it, is that, when those thermal pictures, sometimes they bring them in, when they're like Ghostbusters or things like that.
Yeah.
You don't see the details, you see the heat. It looks, you're right, it has that feeling to it.
Hey, did anybody
like-
point out that there's baby deers in this picture?
Oh, there's
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
There's some baby deers and some younger deer right behind them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. huh?
There are a couple in the middle too,
Yeah.
Mhm.
in there. Yeah.
These look like x-rays to me,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Very good, Peggy. You were following my fingers. That went a long way with your cursor. So,
We're mind melding, Steve.
yeah, very good.
Yes. or night goggles that have been washed out.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is a photograph that a few you can find in different collections across the country. It was just recently on view, actually, up in Notre Dame. So if you ever, and this is 14 inches by 23 inches, so it's pretty large too.
Mhm.
What did you say how big it was?
14 by 23.
Wow, okay.
So it's got a good presence to it. But yeah, so it's kind of all downhill from here after these deer, but I wanted to show you these
Oh,
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it truly is.
Wow factor.
I mean, all of you most of you had a reaction to it, so I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
So can I ask one more question?
please.
Did y'all talk about what kind of flash that was used?
No, he had a large format
Oh,
camera, and then he deliberately set it up. I couldn't find anything about the flash he was using, but he
Okay.
deliberately set it up during the dusky time of day, when deer are most active.
Okay.
So that light is contributing to it, but because of the longer exposure, as Steve was
Yeah.
talking about, it was allowing more light. It almost looks brighter than it probably actually was.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is a 1 in a million shot.
Totally.
Yes.
Very happy accident.
Yes.
So not the same kind of ghosty deer, but this deer kind of creeps me out too. Does anyone else feel that way?
Because like the younger deers look like one has two heads.
It looks like that. That is creepy. No, I think the eyes in this one just look very lifeless to me.
Looks
Oh,
like
yeah.
Area 51.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The face looks like Area 51.
Yes. So this is a lithograph called Forest Folk. And this particular artist worked with his wife to create these different forest scenes that were eventually in books.
Oh
And
my.
so the deer were they used different forest creatures to tell these different stories, but deer were often the most popular ones. And there was from what I can understand, there was like two deer in particular that were struggling to kind of be the lead deer or something like that. I'm not sure if that's being.
I think they're drinking because it looks like there's a waterfall in the background in the pond.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
good
I think they're
eye.
going down to drink.
Yes. And it's not turning up so well on this production, but maybe you can reproduction on the screen, but maybe you can see these look like baby deer because of all the
Yes. Yes.
Plots, yeah. Mhm.
I
so
like the delicateness of the leaves in front.
Yeah. And the hair on the ears.
Yes.
oh
Oh,
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can almost feel it.
that velvety feel.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to your last picture that you showed us, it has the same components. Looks like they're in the probably one they were running and they were all their capture made them look white. In the same
Mhm.
way, this one looks like you painted it like it's a flash of light at nighttime or something. And
Yeah, like-
I'm not sure that the deer's eyes would not look dark in that scenario.
Mhm. Yeah, you
Yeah.
feel like you're peeking in on a scene. They're just as surprised to see us as almost we are to see them.
Okay.
And this particular one, this is pretty big, 21 by 28, but it's a lithograph, so you can get pretty big with a lithograph. No, excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. This is a 10 by 12, so it's not huge.
Oh, okay. Oh,
The next one's going to be the 21 by 28. So we'll go to some other black and white deer, but this is very, very artistic.
Penmanship.
Mhm.
That is what that says, isn't it?
It is.
Mhm, yes.
So this is almost like a handwriting sampler. But we can see the different types of, ink and different letter strokes, detailing. There's not much, I could not find much about this particular person. I couldn't find anything about the person. I couldn't find anything about this particular piece of work. I think it's just something we have in our collection. One, it was a gift. And so it's something that we have to an insight we have on how women were often trained in writing and calligraphy and things like that.
wow.
Another delicate one.
Very.
Do you know anything about this person? Sandy Ford is the name of the person that drew it.
Couldn't find anything about this particular artist. I could not know. And there's some writing that the upper right one, this says, full many a gem of purest ray serve, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bare, full many a flower is born to blush unseen, and waste its fragrance of desert air.
Huh.
Mm.
And then this one right here, I believe, there is not a truth by wisdom taught, there is not a feeling pure and high, there is not a grand inspiring thought that may not be read in a mother's eye.
Mhm. Now, what is the word in front of Professor Sandy Ford on the bottom?
Bye.
Oh, by. Now I
yeah.
can see it. Yes, yes. Okay.
That's too fancy.
I know.
It's calligraphy, which is a lot fancier
Yeah.
than regular writing.
Fancy of a bee. Yeah.
Yes.
Did anyone ever take calligraphy or handwriting lessons as an adult or child?
No,
No.
I've got a friend in my other dementia group who actually does calligraphy. Some very nice size. In fact, he has done wanted posters for people.
Oh, wow.
No, and including the artwork, not just the penmanship, but even the drawing part. Very, very skilled.
In the last,
And He picked it up later in life.
Uh-huh.
I have enough trouble printing in the English
I
characters.
can't.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Don.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure they're teaching cursive in a lot of schools anymore. I think
No, I
that's-
don't think they
No,
are.
they're
No.
not. And which
They
is
don't.
bad.
that's a crime, I feel like. What an important life skill lost.
That's the secret code.
That's
for
right.
adults, youth, you know, they can't
This is what-
understand it, so we can write anything we want.
Yeah. You
Right
want,
on
if
the
you
back
don't
of
want
the
the
wall.
younger kids
We
to
had to spell
understand it,
things
just,
before our kids could understand it. Now
yeah.
we just write in cursive and they can't.
yeah, exactly.
10 years ago, when my grandchildren were in grade school, I was shocked to hear that the teachers cared about keystrokes.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
didn't care about printing.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh, I remember learning cursive in second grade, and it was such a
Yeah.
like sitting at the kitchen table with my mom and like learning.
yeah.
You remember those big thick lines with the dots?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, the guideline in the middle.
Yes. And then
I-
using your two fingers to space between each word.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? I mean,
Big Chief tablet.
I
yes,
I can't do anything in cursive anymore. Even my signature looks like a scribble.
yeah.
Welcome to seniorhood.
Well, basically because in college I had a professor who wanted everything printed.
Mm.
And so as I went along, I learned everything I've done is in printed. Look, some of it looked like cursive, but it's all printed,
yeah.
you know.
Were you in engineering school,
I was
Steve?
gonna say, did you do
Yeah.
a hard science? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an electronics, power mechanics, that type of thing, professor.
Yeah.
He wanted everything printed. We had to have graph paper, lined
Oh,
graph paper, and everything had to be printed on the graph paper.
oh my goodness.
Wow.
Every engineer I've ever known had beautiful printing penmanship.
Well,
Oh, not
mine
me.
ended up not being
Not Don?
beautiful because of my time in Thailand and learning Thai script, you know, so my printing, we came home from Thailand and one of my friends at school said, you sure got horrible handwriting.
Yeah.
No.
But the last company I worked for, Abbott Laboratories, when I first started there, the guy that was in charge of our document control, basically reprimanded me because everything I turned in was illegible to him.
Oh, really?
I understood it, but to
Yeah.
him it was illegible.
Of course,
So
the
I had
bad
to
part, Don, is when sometimes you can't even read your own writing. That's when it gets bad.
Yeah, I've had that before too.
I sometimes can't read my own journal.
Mhm.
Yep. Hi,
I
Myra.
have the
you're
same thing
here.
in like my planner. I'll write what I need to do that day, and then I go and look at it, and I'm like, I have no idea what I need to do today. I
Yeah.
can't do my writing.
Yes.
Well, so this is a beautiful deer. And now we're looking at another,
Oh, from
Yeah.
Texas.
yeah, our old friend Sarah Ann Lily Hardin. We've looked at her in the past. She had a sweet little postcard of their farm. Yeah, we looked at it a while ago. But this is another little prairie scene she drew while she and her family were living down in either Seguin, San Antonio, or Austin, somewhere in that area. She and her family came down from Massachusetts to Galveston to claim land that they inherited from her brother who passed. Well, they couldn't find the land and kind of were moving all over around down in South Texas. And she ended up having 3 babies in the 4 years they were here, 3 little boys.
Whew.
They were on a farm, that was what we saw, the little farm on the postcard in the past. But she was journaling a lot, speaking of journaling, and she created little watercolors of prairie scenes, house scenes, city scenes of that part of Texas, which have been very helpful in kind of understanding what life was like at that juncture in time in Texas. So here's a little prairie scene she drew, and you can see,
Deer in the background.
yeah, they're not quite to to scale with the rest of
That's
No,
right.
no,
Yeah,
It's
but,
big.
hey,
right.
They're giants compared to that carriage.
Right.
Obviously.
yeah,
Yeah, they should be pulling that carriage, not those horses.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's Texas for you. The deer are bigger than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the people down in the corner are also very small compared.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
closer to us than the
And it-
horses.
And I think, I can't tell, this looks like it might be a hunter with a rifle,
Yes.
but I don't know if it's just me assigning something to it or if it's actually that. But it looks like there are hunting dogs and that massive buck.
Mm-hmm.
well, and the birds are almost as large as the deer,
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
you know, so,
And that cabin, that deer would squash that cabin.
yeah,
But she was self-taught. Let's cut
Yeah,
her
yeah.
slack, you know?
but historically, it's very interesting because there were a lot of families like that who said they inherited land, but they could never find the land
Mhm.
Yeah.
because there was not as much documentation and things were so fluid,
Sure.
you know, and somebody probably had already claimed the land and, you know, because nobody had lived on it for a while and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah,
I
and
understand that, yeah.
she came down from Massachusetts. So who knows how long after her brother had passed that they received word.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when they decided, she and her husband decided to come down, it took them from the Boston area down to Galveston. It took them 29 days, which
Yeah.
to me seemed really fast given that time.
Well, they
But-
came by boat, I'm sure, by ship.
I didn't see.
They
Well,
had to
yeah,
come by
trains-
ship at that time because there was not rail transport,
Yeah, and Galveston's a big port city, so yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They probably came down through the Gulf of Mexico
Mhm.
into it, yeah.
Texas was only 7 years old when this was made.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so you got to think about everything in there. The date that she drew this, how little, I say, documents and documentation was taken. You know, how much of a mess it was,
Yeah.
because,
So, yeah,
because the
Yeah.
land grants from the Mexico and everything else, and who knows what all went on with that.
No, it's true. And that's why there's a lot of importance historically on her. She has 19 watercolors she did during her time here that we know of.
Wow. With 4
Or-
babies.
Right, yeah. And so it's important. We have learned more about what life looked like when there was not much documentation.
Yeah,
And so after 4 years down here, which, man, the thought of, I guess it's everywhere, but the thought of delivering 3 babies and as you're kind of just
Oh, yeah.
moving around and you don't have a homestead necessarily in parts of this excursion. They ended up moving back up north after about 4 years after her husband, I guess, lost a lot of their money and they could not afford to live down here anymore. So they packed up and moved back.
Oh my.
So is this like sugar cane that they're driving by?
I don't know. I couldn't find
Or is it
looks
cattails
like
or
tall grasses to me, but I'm
tall
not.
grass?
yeah, it just looks like tall grass to me. But it looks like 2 different things because the deer are on top of something. I
Unless
don't
the-
know, Don.
It's a slanted perspective. I'm not.
Yeah, it
so,
is.
It should be going back like that, but we're seeing, anyway, this is
No, it's
a prairie scene, and we've seen pictures of their homestead, so I'm not sure if this is necessarily where they lived or just something she happened to see on her journey, or if she's
Yeah.
kind of created a combination of multiple things that she and her family lived.
Yeah,
She was
Peggy
raised
was.
in Sky.
wa-
Go ahead,
Hmm?
Yetta.
No, was it very normal that women at that time that they did art and drew in 1852?
With watercolors and things like that, but watercolor was often the more feminine art, and calligraphy, like what we had just seen. But she was doing these mostly for herself, or she was creating postcards to send to family that weren't living with them. So it wasn't, she wasn't making a living creating art.
Okay.
but female artists at this time existed, but not, it was not the popular route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. His ladies' work.
Yeah, a lot of women during, or not a lot, women during this time were typically, like in New York City, there would have been a lot of printmaker women who were good at watercoloring and drawing, printing, illustration, things like that. So her, from being up in the Northeast, would have been familiar. It would have been a familiar artwork.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, we're gonna go. We have one more. Sorry, guys. Let me.
Ooh.
All right.
Speaking of empowering women,
Oh, yes, dear.
The
Wow.
hunter.
Wow.
Wow, she was busy that day.
Touche, Yetta.
I thought, oh, this is just a historic photograph. The amount of information I could find on this woman was shocking. I could not believe how much there is written about this woman. So we see a bad Mama Jamma out there,
Mama Jama.
and she has just taken down a big old buck. So let's we'll talk about what we see in this picture, and then we can kind of pull out and learn a little bit more about her. What do you notice she's wearing?
Dress.
Corset.
Yes.
A dress, and I
And
thought it was
bullet.
too, Martha. It's her belt of rounds.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's a what?
It's her belt of ammo.
Ammo.
Oh
that
my
cool?
goodness.
Yeah, so you can see some
Right.
shells are still there, some aren't.
Oh.
That looks like it's about
Mm.
45 calibers, 70,
Still here.
70, whatever inches or everyone, 45,
Yeah,
70.
you can't tell what the rifle is. It's a little hard to see.
Well,
Yeah.
I will tell you, it is a Remington Hepburn rifle.
Okay.
She is in a lot of photographs. This was her big old gun of choice. She was
Okay.
a crack shot. She was a well-known hunter, and so this is what she used and was really good at using. And then
So what kind of gun did you say it was?
Remington Hepburn.
Hepburn. Okay.
It'd
Hepburn
be a
rifle.
single shot, I think.
Yeah, it looks to be.
Yeah.
She's got her gloves. She's got her, I mean, she still looks ready to go into market with her sweet little dress on, and she's taking down this deer. So her name is
Looks like she's got a fur hat on too.
I was gonna, is
Yeah,
that a hat on
she
her
had a
head?
fur hat on. Yep.
Yeah.
Looks like me.
Camouflage.
Yeah.
Go Myra.
And look at these beautiful gloves. You can kind of see some like detailing on them, these leather
Mhm.
gloves. So her husband was Alan Grant. She was Augusta, but you know, their names kind of match. And so now we're going to learn a little about her, which I thought, man, this woman is doing the damn thing. So she got divorced, moved down to, she was in one of the Dakotas or Wyoming, something like that, moved down to her brother in Denver, met her brother's friend, this guy. The lore of the family is that Alan and Augusta got trapped in a cabin from a snow shift. So they were there for months, and to save face, they just decided to get married because they were embarrassed that they were in a cabin for that long together and didn't want people to think anything. Got married. She's about 20 years older than her husband.
Wow.
And
A cougar.
yeah, right. Yeah. And so he was a self-taught photographer and ended up, they both had similar interests in hunting and in animal conservation and environmental awareness and things like that. And so she and her husband, so they're living in Leh, Colorado, which is like the northwest part of the state. He would take pictures, and some historians credit him as the first photographer to capture images of wildlife in their natural setting.
Mm.
Not taxidermied, not staged or in reserves, things like that. He would find these animals. He and his wife would find these animals in nature and were able to take photographs, which then they would go back to DC. They were supposedly good friends with Roosevelt, and that's what drew Roosevelt out to Colorado to hunt. So they were very, he as the photographer was doing the photography work, but she as a hunter and environmentalist was doing a lot of the work with him. She was often like the keynote speaker at conferences back east on her hunting techniques and things like that. And she bragged at an expo in 1895 that she only started hunting in, I want to say like 1885. It was the first time she picked up a gun. I mean, like she had never done it. She didn't grow up doing it. Got good at it. And so at her this expo in 1895, she said, bragging that she had killed 31 bucks, only wounded 3, and never had one lost. She found everything she killed.
Mhm.
So she was
And Mama
considered a
Jama.
crack shot, and she was a widely known hunter expert that was respected throughout the country.
So this is probably just a philosophical questions, but what do you do when you kill 30 deers? Do you process them? Do you leave them there, take their antlers? I mean,
Well, okay, so I know I was kind of thinking about this. If she killed 31 deer over the course of 10 years and only one went lost, I would assume that they were eating the meat that they were killing.
okay.
Mhm,
Oh, so
mhm.
I misunderstood totally. I thought that was the 30th one that day.
No, oh no, God, no. Could you imagine? That, well, we can see this was her 30th deer.
30th, yes.
So, it doesn't, this day and age, I feel like, people might get 30 deer in probably much shorter time, given, the ammo and the technology
Sure.
of, setting up cameras so you can track these deer. But I'm assuming because they were such environmentalists that they were eating or using in some way everything that they could.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that when they got married, from what I read, the photographer was 22 and she was 48,
Wow.
Woo!
robbing the cradle. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I just thought, oh, this is just a fun picture, because we do have a lot of hunting pictures of deer, these kind of, reward, look at my bounty in our collection, these these, either lithographs or pictures or drawings, because for so long, this was how people could communicate their success hunting
Yep,
or
yep.
whatever. And so I just thought this was a cool picture of the woman, and she was pretty dang cool in her day.
Yes, she was.
So.
Like the
all
just
people
had
that
this
take, the people that take all the pictures of when they catch the fish, it's the
Right,
same thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have this picture of her who's packing out, carrying the deer out, and who's carrying the photography equipment out. Because imagine they had horses though. They probably had
Yeah,
horses.
I'm
For
sure
sure.
they did.
Yeah, I know. I was half expecting this hand, and I think there are pictures of her with a knife in her hand, like she's about to field dress them. So I mean, she would,
Yeah.
she's got no problem doing it.
Yeah.
But this particular photograph, it's not showing her about to field dress.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what she's wearing does not complement her very well.
No.
She kind of looks like a man wearing a dress in this picture.
I don't think there was, probably didn't have much time for makeup.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
There was not a lot of makeup or cosmetics on that.
Man, who needs makeup when you've got a sharp shot like that?
That's right. Who needs
And a
You know,
belt
stinking
with bullets.
makeup?
Yeah. Yeah, the Colorado version of a Wonder Woman. It's like her
That's
corset.
right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, those are our deer. I'm sure you weren't expecting where that.
That was
where that
great.
Oh, I loved it.
That was great, Peggy.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you all enjoyed it. Next week, we are back with abstract, and we are going full abstract. So
Ooh.
strap on your skates, gang. It's gonna get wild.
All right.
Okay.
Have a really good Christmas if you're celebrating.
Yes.
Thank
everybody.
you,
You too.
Peggy.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you,
Ho,
Peggy.
ho,
You too.
ho.
Merry Christmas.
Bye,
Say hi to
friends.
your kids.
I
Have
will.
fun
I'll
with
give them all
them.
the kisses.
Yes,
Yeah.
give her
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Peggy. Oh, my goodness. Wasn't that some
was good.
array?
That's good. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was good, yeah. Well, for those of us who weren't here at the end of yesterday, let's take a look at what's coming up. There's Peggy. Tomorrow is Emily Corbin. She's going to get us ready to burn off some calories for our big dinner this weekend. And Jeopardy on Friday. Ooh.
Hey.
And we can wear our hats on Friday, right, Nancy?
Yes. Okay.
If you have a holiday hat or a hat that makes you happy, let's wear our hats for a few minutes on Friday.
Mhm.